Warning, the following is entirely satirical and should not be taken as truth or fact. Styles Rebel Radio and the Rebel Podcast do not own any copyrighted material that may be included in this broadcast. Viewer discretion is advised.
He was receiving calls to his house, death threats saying that he was going to be beheaded, people like giving descriptions of his dog in his backyard. And
suspend the show right now.
You're gonna zipline directly into the harpoon?
Yeah,
what do you know about planes?
I know a lot about planes.
Buckle in, dude. It's gonna suck.
Put your hand on the screen.
How did they find out? Who was the one?
This show has gotten infinitely more gay.
The mystical land of New Jersey.
I don't understand how the laws in this country work anymore.
Welcome to the Rebel Radio Show, live, uncut, and uncensored on WSRR Radio. We're saving the underground music scene. Am I right, Shani? Don't cry. All right. On the board is Jules.
Hi.
I'm Radio's Rebel DJ Style. I gotta clear my throat. Say some things.
Allow me a moment while I clear my throat. Bing, bing, bong, bing, bong, bing, bong, bing, bong. That's like a song.
It was like the Trump meme when it's doing the ding, ding, bing, ding. You remember that?
Bing, bong. What's going on?
It's October. That means it's Conspiracy Theory season on WSRR Radio. It's the last week of conspiracies, and it's... Bye.
October.
Did you say the Uber?
October.
I thought you said, ooh, the Uber.
Conspiracy seasons. The ghosts can talk now in lore.
Shane, you have schizophrenia.
Oh, God. Not again.
Take your pills from Big Pharma.
God.
We've talked about Big Pharma. We've talked about glitter. We've talked about Ong's hat.
Yeah.
We've talked about time travel and the Zodiac Killer. And there's one more that I'm missing somewhere in there.
Martin Luther King.
The deep state cover-ups. So we're winding down October.
I think we've made our rounds. We've stopped at every house on the street for our trick-or-treating path.
And I think now is the time to get the king-size candy bars.
Yeah, we got to go to the rich neighborhoods.
Yeah, today we're going to Sagamore Hills today.
Yeah, whoa.
But yes, I think today, for the finale of the 2024 Conspiracy Theory season, easy for me to say.
Something.
The ghosts got my tongue. For the 2024 Conspiracy Theory season wrap-up, I think this is the one that's most likely going to get taken off air or mysteriously blocked on YouTube or something's going to happen.
Show up.
Yeah.
Off air?
You mean with Shane E?
I know that. I know about him.
It happens weekdays at 3 p.m.
Yeah, it does.
on WSRR Radio.
Yeah, it does.
We're talking about,
we're talking about Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, we're talking about the 1% of the 1% today and the annual meeting that they have for 2 weeks at a time in the woods of California where they have rituals and a whole bunch of secretive meetings, pretty much.
So, break it down. What is Bohemian Grove? Is it a place? Is it an idea? Is it like, do you get it in the mail? Is it something that you can contract? Is it viral?
A couple of those things. So
Pretty
basically,
much.
it's a restricted 2,700 acre campground in Monte Pico, California.
Northern California, yes.
And it was founded in 1874 or 78. My apologies. And it's owned by a private gentleman's club known as the Bohemian Club.
Whoa.
So let's just do a little backstory here for the Bohemian Club. The Bohemian Club is initially formed by a bunch of artists and writers and poets and painters and things of this nature, pretty much as an after-school activity for them. It's a guys' hangout. It's a retreat that they go on.
Boys only.
Yeah, it's literally like the Moose Club, like things like that, like a fraternity kind of thing.
What the fuck is the Moose Club?
Hold on. Hang on. If you don't know about the Moose Club, I can't help you, all right?
Oh, lock in, boys.
Lock in for the Moose Club.
Lock in, boys and girls.
It's like it's exactly what you'd think of when you think of like a fraternity for old men, essentially. Like a group of guys, your set group that gets together once a year for this annual thing, right?
Sure.
And so the Bohemian Club initially started out as painters and artists and musicians and poets and things of this nature, writers, that would just get together and go out to the woods and essentially be creative for a week.
Oh, interesting.
And at this point, the area that they occupied in which is Bohemian Grove in the California woods, is much, much smaller as well. And as these events continue to go on and on and on as a yearly tradition, people start to get wind of it, and people start to buy their way in to the Bohemian Club, which is still a practice that is held today. To get into the Bohemian Club currently, and to be able to get into Bohemian Grove, number one, there's a $25,000 application fee.
Whoa, that's just the fee.
Just to be an applicant, not even to be accepted in.
That's wild.
After
it's
that,
also invitation only.
Yeah, you
so
have
you
to be invited.
and then you have to pay.
Hot diggity damn. Okay.
so once you've been invited, once you've paid your $25,000 application fee to be reviewed,
Yeah.
you are then put on a 15-year waiting list.
The fuck?
Yeah,
The hell?
And then-
Or they just like, don't die.
pretty much.
All right.
And then you might be granted access
You also pay yearly dues.
to the Bohemian Club.
So do you pay yearly dues if you're on the wait list?
I believe so.
That's fucked. What the hell? Bohemian Grove is really a bottom dollaring there. Fucking. They're
The
really.
Bohemian Club still exists today.
Right.
So they're still
like-
going out.
It's
It
presidents.
happened in July, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, every mid-July they go out there for 2 weeks with like the world's most prominent men and
And it's men only.
men only, no women.
That's kind of.
They
kinda
do
gay.
have
Kinda
2 locations though.
A little
They-
fruity.
They have a city clubhouse in San Francisco. That
Now, the location is something I want to talk about a little bit later because it'll go into our next hour topic as well. However, when it comes to locations, there are similar clubs, not just in the U.S.
Not as cool.
Not-
None are nearly as.
Literally, that's pretty much it. There's he's a German official, some like head of state in Germany.
Cool. Sure.
Who is a frequent, he's a member, but a frequent attender of the Bohemian Club in California, Bohemian Grove.
Right.
And he's been on record stating that they have, in his quote, he uses druid-like rituals. He uses the term druid, which is
Right.
something we'll come back to. But they have events like this in Germany and in the UK and in all these other nations. And he specifically comes to California every year because he prefers how they do it.
Oh, they got the. They got
the
right
California
things.
love.
They
is
got
what
that. They
it
got that
is.
California twist on it.
Yeah.
That this Russian guy just really
German.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
But yeah, no, it is mainly the top 1% of the top 1% of the United States, and there are obviously outside politicians and
Yeah.
officials and things like that
there
too.
were presidents.
Right.
Right.
There were
I have a list.
military officials, business leaders.
The
I
15
know
year.
Nixon was one.
Yeah.
I can't get past the 15-year waiting.
Oh, it's
list.
crazy. It's
That's
crazy.
like they're literally just like, all right, survive.
And so here's the thing too. So obviously this is super secretive.
Yeah,
You know, I don't
right,
think we
right.
really talked about that yet, but it's super secretive, super hush hush.
You don't see too many druids out in public.
Right.
You know what I'm
Members of the Bohemian Club, Bohemian Grove, don't typically talk about it.
saying? Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed to discuss what happens inside. Obviously,
Some
Fight Club.
Xenu level knowledge.
honestly, this is
Some
it's
Xen-
very
Some
Scientology-esque.
Xenu level knowledge going on
Yeah.
in Bohemian Grove.
And
all right.
to the point where the town that is home of Bohemian Grove, it gets mainly all of its income from this 1 2-week event every year. They get all of their income for the town for this 2-week event. And it's a small little town, and the locals can't talk about it because a lot of the locals work at the grounds year-round
right. And
as
so then
maintenance.
They probably
as-
have some contract or
Right.
Mm.
So they can't talk about it. The thing's heavily guarded. It's got security cameras. It sits right on a river as well,
Mm.
which is cambered all down the public river. So
Right.
and there's videos out there now of people trying to get into Bohemian Grove because of all the things that we're going to get into. But there's people that are trying to get into Bohemian Grove, and just to get to the entrance of it, they have cops on the scene, like, because they have cameras
Yeah,
all the
right.
time watching this thing. And it's like, we'll get into a little bit of the makeup here first. Like Jewel said, it's this vast acreage of land in Northern California,
Mhm.
heavily wooded, and they have different cabins, essentially. It's like an outside amphitheater, an owl
Okay.
statue that we'll get more into, 40-foot stone owl statue. That's the centerpiece of all of it.
Mhm.
And that's cabins. Then they're set up into different camps, they call them,
Mhm.
of where you go and what club you're part of within the Bohemian Club.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
got sub layers to it.
Whoa. This is some Xenu level
It
shit.
is. So real quick, I do have a list of members, and I bring this up because even getting a full list is damn near impossible because of how secret it is. And I'll tell you this. So this is a list of, and this maybe goes up to the early 2000s, and it's hit or miss. It's just some names that are like widely accepted as members.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and there's photographs of some of these people.
Okay.
And it's mainly
chilling in the Grove with their club buddies.
And this list is mainly like early members, founders, people that were in the original Bohemian Club that were just like guys who were doing art and writing and poetry and going out for leisure. So that's mainly what this is. And the thing that I find interesting is there's a couple of members that are listed on here as founding members of Bohemian Club. And you can go to the Wikipedia page and see this quote-unquote members list. The founding members and presidents and sitting presidents of the Bohemian Club often don't have their own pages. It's just random people that don't have any backstory behind them. They just had a lot of money.
Okay.
But I will run through just some names. I got this is a 20-page list, and this is not even...
Annually, they get like 2,500 people like in attendance every July.
I wonder if they do, I mean, you guys might, do they have like a cap? Is there like a limit
I'm not sure if there's a limit.
All right, only 4,000 people on Bohemian Grove. After that,
I haven't seen anything about like a limit, but you know, it like Joel said, it averages around that number.
Okay.
But I have a list here of just an assortment of names. It's nowhere near a full list. Like I said, I'm not going to go through here 20 pages and read them.
Yeah.
I just highlighted a few that are notable. Both George Bush and George H.W. Bush are notable members of it. They belong to a camp called the Hillbillies, which is a Texas-based camp within it. Joseph Coors, who is the grandson of the founder of Coors Beer, is a prominent member who is grandfathered into it. We have Bill Clinton, was a member of it. We have Tennessee Ernie Ford, famous American folk singer Tennessee Ernie Ford. Newt Gingrich, who is the 50th Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Newt!
Like Jules said, Nixon was a member of it.
Nixon!
Reagan was a member of it.
Reagan!
And it's often said that Nixon and Reagan, prior to either of them running, had met at the Bohemian Grove to discuss who would run when. And who would run first.
Interesting.
James M. McDonald, who was the president of Bohemian Grove from 1890 to 1891, was a notable one that I written down here. And because he is the president, and it's specified here that he had a life stay in Bohemian Grove, he could come back whenever, even after his presidency was done. Has no link to him. There's no backlog to this guy, James M. McDonald. I couldn't find any research on this guy for being the president of one of the most elusive clubs ever. I said Richard Nixon. William A. Patterson Sr., who was the president of United Airlines, was a member of the Grove. Ronald Reagan was in the camp's Owl's Nest, was specifically where he was.
That was his club?
Yeah.
The Nest?
The Nest.
Okay.
Theodore Roosevelt was an honorary member of the club. He came to speak at it, which is another thing that we'll get into, is they often invite other celebrities or A-list stars to the club as honorary members or guest speakers or musicians.
Okay.
I have a few stories about musicians that we can talk about.
So they just
too.
have like a little, it's essentially just like a rich person TED Talk of like,
it's supposed to be like a social club. So they have
That's what they like to portray it as.
They have like a motto that's like "Weaving spiders come not here,"
which is a Shakespeare quote.
Yes. It's from Midsummer Night's Dream, William Shakespeare. But it's meant to mean that this is a social organization rather than a place for decision making.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to be like, yo, we're not
here to do business.
Yeah, we're not here to do business.
That's
just
the whole
come
pitch.
Chill out.
Right.
Interesting. And so, okay.
Real quick, I had a couple other names. Arnold Schwarzenegger was there on July 30th, 2010 as the guest speaker when he was serving as the governor of California.
Guys, could you tell that was Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, of course.
216-859-8699. Be honest.
Bob Weir, who was a founding member of the Grateful Dead, was a member of the Bohemian Club. Obviously, the Rockefellers were as well.
The Rock?
And a lot of The Rock. No, The Rock's not.
The Rock and a lot of fellers. Oh, no.
The Rock and all his fellers. The Rockefellers and most of the American bankers and bankheads are members of the Bohemian Club. And like you said, it's very much pitched as like a social gathering. We're going to come, and there's still a lot of like, because it was based around artists and writers and poets and things of that nature. There is a lot of that goes on. There's typically music performances, guest speakers, presentations, plays. But there's something that happens that puts a lot more dire of a tone on this. And that's the main part of it, is the cremation of life. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
The cremation of life ceremony.
That sounds not cool.
No,
that
it
sounds
is.
like it's kind of scary.
It is a ritual ceremony that the whole thing is based around. I believe it happens on the first night.
This is when the druids come out.
Yes, this is when the druids come out. Men in black robes come out holding torches.
No.
And they worship a 40-foot owl. And there's a sacrifice that's made. And we'll get into it when we come back. 216-859-8699.
Hi, this is Melissa,
And hey, it's Matt.
coming at you from Synergy Music Studio.
We are a recording and production studio located on the south side near Chicago.
Check us out online at synergymusicstudio.com. We offer recording, mixing, and mastering.
And follow us on Instagram at Synergy Music Studio. Rock hard.
Hey, Style here, and I want to take a minute to talk to you about Hellbender Vinyl, a proud supporter of local and independent music and a proud supporter of WSRR Radio. Hellbender Vinyl is one of America's most trusted custom vinyl pressing plants. Located in Upper Lawrenceville on Butler Street, Hellbender is Pittsburgh's first and only vinyl record pressing plant and is here to help local bands and artists get their albums onto vinyl. Hellbender Vinyl offers vinyl record pressings to ensure that albums don't just end up as a bunch of ones and zeros floating around somewhere on the internet. So, if you're interested in giving your album a physical release, you can visit hellbendervinyl.com to start the conversation today. Plus, every customer at Hellbender Vinyl receives 5 free test presses to review at no additional cost. Hellbent on quality, hellbent on service, hellbendervinyl.com.
Off Air, hosted by Shane E. It's a show. It's on 3 p.m. weekdays, WSR Radio.
Tune in.
That's the read. That's how it's written. Thank you, Shane, for that electric read.
Whoever's the owner of the gray sedan, you left the Rebel Radio show playing.
Welcome back to the Rebel Radio Show, live, uncut, and uncensored on WSRR Radio, brought to you by Synergy Music Studio out of Chicago. If you're in the Chicago area, hit up Synergy for live recordings, mixing, mastering, and more. And if you're not in the Chicago area, synergymusicstudio.com. Check out their reamping service to get your tracks, album, or radio ready. Once again, synergymusicstudio.com. I do have to make a correction.
Correction.
It's the cremation of care ceremony,
Oh.
not the cremation of life. So the ceremony, which is really the focal point of all of this, is pitched as a way of burning and leaving all care behind. Because, like Jewel said, the quote, weaving spiders...
Weaving spiders come not here.
Weaving spiders come not here. It's pitched as this is not a business thing. This is a place to be carefree, essentially, right, is the pitch. So they do this cremation of care ceremony where it's a whole elaborate... Basically a play. It's got a pyrotechnic show.
Okay.
It's got the druids. It's got chanting.
That's kind of...
Yeah, it's... I'll get into more of that in a minute.
Spooky dooky, huh?
But it's pitched as this way to leave all cares behind. And the way they do that is to, how they say, they make a sacrifice in the shape of a body, a child body, out of sticks and cloth. And sometimes there's a casket, sometimes there's not. And they offer it to this 40-foot owl deity, and they burn it. They burn it alive during the pyrotechnic show. Now,
it's a little creepy.
The reason we know this...
Yeah. Yeah. How do we know? Where are we getting there? Are you part of the...
Yeah.
You part of the Grove?
I'm not allowed to talk about it.
You'll get your invitation soon.
Okay.
15 years. Yeah, 15 years. You got the money, right?
I can wait. Yeah, no, I got the money.
Okay.
I can take out a couple loans.
Thanks, Synergy. So the reason that we know about this, and I know a lot of people are going to find this hit or miss, so let me preface by saying this. There's a lot that this man has said that is very off the wall. And a lot recently that this man has said that has been off the wall and has caused a lot of turmoil. However, there was a time when this man was a very prominent journalist and told stories about Epstein and told stories about the top 1% and actual government cover-ups that were happening that we later found out. I mean, the Epstein stuff was broke by this man decades ago, and we just found out 5 years ago, right? So the reason that we know about Bohemian Grove and the only footage we have of Bohemian Grove and the ceremony is from 2000, I believe, when Alex Jones snuck in to Bohemian Grove. Alex Jones, who was he wasn't with InfoWars, I don't believe.
The Joneser,
and if so, it was very small.
He was always doing media.
Yes,
stuff.
He was just a journalist, a reporter journalist.
So he was still doing. Yeah, that makes.
So he had gotten word of Bohemian Grove, and obviously was in journalism and was interviewing notable people. Yeah, got word of Bohemian Grove, so he went and snuck in, and by his account, waited till it started to get a little bit dark out. People started to come in, and they get bussed in. There's no, you can't have women. You can't have. I don't think you can have your own transportation in. Some people get dropped off by helicopter. A lot of people will stay in the nearby town in hotels, giving them a lot of their income, and then get bussed in or shuttled in to Bohemian Grove. In like black sedans, things like that, and they'll be transported in groups too, and then they go through checkpoints as they get through a checkpoint when they enter, where they check everybody in the car. Once they're inside, before they hit the camp, they hit another checkpoint and make sure who everyone in the van is on the list.
So how did Joneser do this?
So the way Alex Jones describes it is he, as the cars were coming through, went up through the woods. Where the river runs across it, which is a public river, went up through the woods and snuck in through like the marsh area, and went either under or behind a fence or something to where one of these stops was happening, where they were checking the vans and seeing who was in it, making sure everyone was on the list. And at one point, when they were switching the transport or people were getting on a shuttle or something of the nature, he got on with them and just kind of tried to blend in and was making conversation.
Guerrilla warfare. This guy's going nuts.
And so he tells the story of how he got on this van or this bus with all these people and was just kind of making small talk, trying to, not seem out of place, maybe seem like he's an invited guest or something like that. And like you said, thousands of people are at this thing. Yeah. So he tells the story of they get to a checkpoint inside of Bohemian Grove where someone comes on the bus and asks everyone, where they're going, what camp they belong to, why they're here. And he knew enough at this point to say, he was with the Hillbillies camp. And if he's got a real southern accent, so I guess it fit the bill. But he gets inside and he tells the story of basically the entire time where people are going to their camps and they have private chefs and all this other stuff that, they're just settling in essentially and enjoying nature, I guess, as they would say. He spent most of the day just like hiding behind a building, trying to get video, trying to get pictures, trying not to be seen. Once it hit nightfall and the cremation of life ceremony started, he would sneak out to this outside amphitheater. Cremation of care, sorry. Where they have the 40-foot owl statue and the show and everything like that, the ceremony. And so he sneaks out and gets into like the seating area. And this is where we have the only video that's ever been recorded inside Bohemian Grove during the event.
Is that video the only like recording? There's no pictures or anything?
There are very few pictures that aren't like publicly accessible from workers at Bohemian Grove.
Okay. So Jones only got this video.
Yeah, this is the only like public especially of the ceremony. This is the only public recording we ever have, which is very like news sites don't typically show it and shows don't typically show it because it's illegally obtained. It's private property. He wasn't allowed to videotape there. Right. So it is out. You can find it, and it's terrifying. But that is the only recording we have, and it is, you see these druids come out, and there's chanting, and they're carrying torches. It's like some fucking Undertaker WrestleMania shit. And they're carrying torches, and there's chanting, and there's a 40-foot owl that has a speaker in it that's speaking and asking all these services of them and like this fake scripture shit reading and telling it to bring a sacrifice. And the video shows these druids carrying out what looks to be a child body.
Oh, that's so
and then it gets burnt, and everyone chants and cheers, and the Bohemian Grove 2-week party, as they call it, starts.
Oh, so this is at the very beginning.
This is night one.
Damn.
Yeah.
Imagine not knowing anything about
Right.
Bohemian Grove.
Right.
You hear about it through a buddy, and they invite you, and you're a rich, high-up person, and you're like, all right, fuck it, I'll see what it's about. 15 years goes by, you get a letter in the mail, like,
Right.
hey, you've been accepted. Night one.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and he tells the story of like once that happened, he's like, all right, my only goal is to get out of here and make sure this footage comes out with me. So he watched the ceremony and was like, I got to find my way out of here.
Mhm.
I got to get out. And so that is the only record footage. And he tells the story because obviously the question after that is, so you have it now and it's out in the public. What was the repercussion of it? Were there legal repercussions? What happens?
Mhm.
And so he tells the story of, well, almost immediately I tried to send it to news outlets.
Sure.
And on 3 different occasions, I made copies of it, tested the copies, sent it out, and was told that there was nothing on the drive when I delivered it to him.
Oh.
So somewhere it got erased, or somewhere someone said, hey, we're not going to show this, and
In
deleted it.
transmission, yeah. And
Right.
then it got crossed in the wires.
And he says within that week of him coming back with the footage, he was receiving calls to his house, death threats saying that he was going to be beheaded, people like giving descriptions of his dog in his backyard and saying that we're watching you. Like,
oh, damn.
and you got to remember, this is the top 1% of the top 1%.
Right,
and
right,
we're
right.
talking, not
military
just
officials.
right, not just presidents, not
like-
just actors, musicians, it's military officials, it's generals, it's admirals,
businessmen. It's
Yeah.
everybody.
Dude, the Joneser was he was a real he went in there.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
And it's the only
Guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, it's the
You know-
only footage we have.
So he only got one video. How long is the video?
That's about 2 minutes something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a decently long video. And this was in what?
2000, I believe.
Okay. So
if not
probably-
2000, early 2000, like
So
02.
probably not super high quality. Probably looks like
It's definitely like a cheap little like secret recorder
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Um,
Okay.
But I mean, it's clear enough
Still,
to tell what's
right.
going on.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I
Joneser.
for being billed as a retreat, a getaway, a leave all cares
Yeah.
behind, it seems awful ritualistic.
Wow. That's like okay. Just to get it in my brain and the mindset.
Mhm.
What like maybe this is just like a carefree
Yeah.
arts and crafts getaway, and this is how they start it.
But why?
Why? Yeah, why start it like that? Yeah, because like again,
If you're
I'm,
gonna go hang out with your boys, you don't
if I'm some
burn
big,
a childlike figure before you start partying, right?
well, yeah. Say I'm like a famous musician or artist or something like that,
Sure.
and I've again, same situation. I hear about this through the grapevine, get invited, 15 years, blah blah blah. Night one, I'm gonna be like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just came to party, like thought we were just gonna chill and
Yeah.
like make music or whatever. Like I don't know. That's interesting.
Well, so it's interesting because again, it's very secluded. Even trying to do research into it, it's very hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
People in the town don't talk about it because they don't want to jeopardize number one their income and don't want to jeopardize whatever's going on.
Well, there's probably some kind of NDAs.
I'm sure. And people that worked on it, people still work there as groundskeepers, as security, as maintenance, as help, as staff, as dry cleaners. So like,
Chefs.
yeah, and people can't talk about what goes on there, so it's very few and far between you actually get to have an interview with someone who's been there or has been close enough to know what's going on. There is a pretty notable celebrity that has been invited and has been, very controversial in his opinions in the media, however, has an inside account. And, I'm not a fan of Joe Rogan in any means. I'm not a Joe Rogan guy. The
Joe
guy
Rogan.
obviously built his brand, good for him.
Joe Rogan.
I don't think it's very compelling content.
Joe Rogan.
However, he did an interview with this celebrity we're going to get into when we come back.
Joe Rogan.
216-859-8699.
Joe Rogan.
Imagine spending hundreds of dollars of your own money to advertise a massive corporation. Now imagine that same corporation using your money to pay a public figure to sell a product back to you. Unfortunately, you don't have to imagine. Corporate product placement is the monopoly of the clothing industry as we know it. That's where GenericClothes.com comes in. Stick it to these big brand clothing cunts by wearing something straight and to the point. GenericClothes.com's got you covered and lets you have a laugh at their expense. Nobody cares about the details. Get to the point. With shirts like floral pattern, trademark logo, music band, and more. Once again, that's genericclothes.com. Want to listen on the go? WSRR radio streams live 24/7, 365, absolutely free with the Live 365 app. Welcome back to the Rebel Radio Show, live, uncut, and uncensored on WSRR Radio. We're wrapping up conspiracy season here in October, the last week of October.
Sorry. Sorry. Okay, that's one.
You gotta get that checked out, dude.
I know, man. It's bad.
You gotta take your pills. Is what you need to do.
Yeah, I do.
And we're wrapping up conspiracy season for October with one of the most controversial and undercover theories there is in the terms of Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that we're sponsored by genericclothes.com. Tell the big brand clothing companies to suck it. Wear something at their expense. Stick it to them by going to genericclothes.com. And we're also brought to you by Hellbender Vinyl, Pittsburgh's first and only vinyl record pressing plant, and one of America's most trusted vinyl record plants. So if you want to make your next album release more than much of just ones and zeros on the interwebs, hellbendervinyl.com is the place for you. Before we went to break, I was talking about a certain artist who had ventured inside the Bohemian Grove.
Okay.
This man is Kid Rock.
Oh.
Kid Rock was invited to Bohemian Grove sometime in the early 2000s.
The Rockster.
And he has an account on Joe Rogan. And this is why I'm not a fan of Joe Rogan. He got the story, but he doesn't go far into it. It's very much a 2-minute, 30-second YouTube short clip of, oh, you did this. Cool. Very nice. Next topic.
Interesting.
So he brings up Bohemian Grove. Kid Rock says that he was invited to Bohemian Grove once as a musical guest. So he goes to Bohemian Grove. He's, shown his cabin that he's staying in with a bunch of other people, and there's a personal chef, and he tells this account. He gets into a fight there with someone.
Okay, kid.
But so he tells the story, and he talks about, at first it's just a bunch of guys hanging out drinking beer. When he gets there, he's like, oh, this is cool, just like summer camp, essentially, right?
Adult summer camp.
Right. And so he's talking about the fact that, as the night winds down, everyone's, getting down into this mass, and there's the owl, and he's like, this is when he starts going, oh, this is weird. I don't want to be here. This is, this is not what it was pitched to me as.
It's exactly what we were thinking it should be.
Right. And so he tells this account of seeing the owl and the fire and the pyrotechnics show and all that. And he's like, at that point, I'm like, I don't want to be part of this. I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
So he tells the story about how he gets into a fight with someone, it doesn't say what it's over, but he gets into a fight, and I guess they ended on decent enough terms. But because he got into a fight, he wasn't allowed. They gave him a punishment. He wasn't allowed to leave his cabin for the following night's concert, which was Zac Brown. So it's another name we can add to the list. But he wasn't allowed to go to the Zac Brown concert at Bohemian Grove because he got into a fight. And they made him stay in his cabin all night.
You're in timeout.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he said. He said they put him in timeout.
You're in timeout, Kid Rock.
And then he tells the final thing he says is that he was told that, oh, you should get your guitar and come to this location. Not so much as a request, but it was implied that, if you want to stay in our good graces, you're going to go do a show, essentially.
Oh,
yeah,
whoa.
Yeah.
Damn.
And he's like, I have no desire of going back. I think he said he'd been invited again, but he's like, I'm not going to go back to
not
that.
Part of that shit.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's a crazy event. Also, shout out Echo for listening on the simulcast on YouTube Live. I almost said Facebook Live, but we haven't been on there in over a year.
Shout out Echo.
So if you're listening on the simulcast on YouTube on this Monday evening, or live wherever you are on the Live 365 app, or WSRRradio.com, or if you're listening in podcast form every Wednesday at 10 a.m., the Rebel Podcast, make sure you let us know. 216-859-8699 is that number to text in. And you won't get access to Bohemian Grove through us, but you can get access to the Discord server.
Yeah.
There's less satanic ritual there.
Yeah.
None, as far as I know.
Yeah, no.
There's Spider-Man.
There is Spider-Man. There is conspiracies and liminal spaces, though.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the ritual more, because that is really the bread and butter of this thing.
Yeah, that seems to be the main event.
It is. It's interesting that you have the top 1% of the 1% all getting together in the super secret place that no one's allowed to know what goes on, right? That alone is suspect enough. They're talking public affairs outside of the public.
Right.
But then you add this into it. And this is a step over the top. That this isn't just guys being dudes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Really quick. You said bread and butter?
Yeah.
I say meat and potatoes. Who's bread and butter and meat and potatoes?
Meat and
Let's get to the main topic.
You can eat meat without potatoes, and you can eat potatoes without meat. Can you really eat bread without butter? Can you eat butter without bread?
You can eat butter without bread.
216-859-8699. Meat and potatoes are bread and butter.
All right.
But let's get into the fat of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's concerning that there is like these elites that clearly have a lot of money, probably have a lot of influence, quote unquote, doing arts and crafts.
Yeah, right. Summer camp, yeah.
But then, yeah, it's not concerning anymore. It's like spooky, like actually scary,
yeah.
It's like a cult.
that they do that.
It's basically a cult.
Cremation of care.
There's two things I want to bring up.
It's weird that care is in the form of a person.
Yeah. They're casting their cares into this human-like. I'm gonna say human-like for now. Remember, guys, this is conspiracy theory season.
Human likeness.
Yeah, this human-like body that they're then burning, which is also child-sized, which is another topic I want to get into in a minute. But there's two main things I want to bring up here while we have a decent bit of time. The Skull and Bones Society. I don't know if you two are familiar with this, but they have heavy ties into the creation and ongoing leadership of the Bohemian Grove and Bohemian Club. Now, the Skull and Bones Society is a secret society, a secret fraternity of Yale. And the reason they get their name is because allegedly, again, conspiracy theory season, they made their name, or part of their fraternity initiation initially was stealing bones of famous politicians, actors, celebrities.
Whoa.
I think it was there's a certain president they stole their bones of. There's a certain explorer I don't remember the name.
Yeah, like some adventurer, explorer type person.
And they stole the remains of these people. There's four main ones at least, but they stole the remains of these famous people, and that was the initiation. Now, and I get my information of this from Trevor Moore. However, this next part, not the initial part.
Yeah.
However, it is factual that both the Bushes, George H.W. and Watch This Drive George Jr., were both members of the Skull and Bone Society.
There you go.
From my understanding, part of the initiation of the Skull and Bone Society, again, you have to be invited, just like Bohemian Club. You have to be invited, and part of the initiation is that you lay blindfolded in a coffin, and you have to jack off while the other members watch. Part of the interesting part of this is that George H.W. Bush allegedly requested to be there for his son's initiation. Both members of Skull and Bones, both members of the Bohemian Club. So I want to put that in there too, that they're heavily tied to Bohemian Club.
Skull and Boners, more like.
Good job, Shane.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
So naturally, I wanted to do more research into the 40-foot owl. Because the 40-foot owl is the centerpiece. There's a lot of owl imagery.
And I feel like owls in general just have a lot of kind of spooky cultish imagery.
You said it has a speaker and it speaks scripture?
No, not scripture. It's some weird chant or tells them to give the offering. It's part of the show.
Weird.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the show.
Yeah, from my understanding now, and it's a famous actor that does the voice of it too.
Oh, of course it is.
But from my understanding now,
Chris Pratt.
It's not Chris Pratt that I know of. But yeah, no. That now the owl speaks, and there's a whole back and forth play that goes on essentially before the cremation of care. However,
crazy.
I wanted to know more about why they're worshiping this owl.
Yeah.
And you hear things like there's the Illuminati, obviously, that's secret government organization or shadow organization, and you hear all these different things about there's images of goats and devil worship and all that kind of things.
Right.
It's a very blanket thing, and so the owl to me seemed very specific. Why an owl? Like you were saying, why an owl? Why is it 40 feet? Why are they burning something for it?
Yeah.
And this isn't just your blanket oh, this is our symbol. This is our thing that we made. The owl represents Moloch or Moloch, however you want to pronounce it. And Moloch is referenced by name in the Bible. It's Leviticus 18:21. Quote, "You shall not give your children to devote them by fire to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God." Moloch was a god that a civilization was worshiping in biblical times, and they would practice child sacrifice by fire to this god.
Bro,
this is not blanket. Devil worship. This is not blanket idol worship. We made this. This is an actual deity that was worshipped in biblical time. That is directly mentioned by name in the Bible as something that is evil and not to worship, and it is a false prophet.
And it's being worshipped by our top elite.
And being provided sacrifices by fire in the form of a child body.
Spooky dookie, guys. Okay.
So there's more than just, it's not just a 40-foot owl.
Yeah,
it is very much a ceremony.
It's crazy that we know for a fact that this club still exists and that there's still very minimal information about it.
Yeah. It's a lot. And it's a lot to take in, too.
Yeah.
And part of this that I think is very interesting is, and again, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to come back to this point. This is one of many clubs like this, or locations for gatherings of this sort, of the top echelon of the 1%, right?
Now, is Bohemian... I had this question before, and I kind of forgot to ask it. Is Bohemian Grove just the name of this one specifically, or are they all like Bohemian Palace, Bohemian...
So they have they just call it their city clubhouse. So Bohemian Grove is just that campground.
Yeah, right.
In California.
And then they are the Bohemian Club.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily... Bohemian Club, I think, is exclusive to Bohemian Grove.
Okay.
That is its own...
right. They're their own club.
Yeah.
They're their own club.
However...
There are other clubs, though.
But most of these people are probably in some of these other places. The one that I'm thinking of the most is Epstein's Island.
Yeah.
Because I would venture to guess a lot of the names that are on this membership list are on those flight logs.
We should cross-reference.
I have a bad connection. I have a bad feeling there's a connection between Epstein's Island.
We're breaking up.
And can you hear me now?
Yes.
And Bohemian Grove.
More minutes.
I wonder if Epstein was a Bohemian Club member.
There's also a card. You have to show a card to get in now.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming it's like a situation of they don't care if you're part of other...
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
You just can't talk about this one.
Yeah, right.
Kid Rock did also mention as he was walking around before, this thing started, he recognized a bunch of people. And I'm upset that, again, this is where I have my issues with Joe Rogan's journalism. He didn't question who they were. He didn't ask for any names or any, and even if he wouldn't have given them, I would have, as a journalist, been inquisitive about it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So he mentioned, like, as he was walking, he would just constantly be bumping into people that he knew or recognized that were in the 1%. So it leads you to believe that, the list that we have is politicians and army generals and political figures for the most part now. However, if, Kid Rock's there and he's bumping into people we know, you'd think it's also probably musicians now and actors now.
100%. 100%.
Those are the names you don't hear about.
So now I ask you, what do you think is going on actually at Bohemian Grove with Moloch? And
I think it is exactly that. I don't think it's, guys in the woods here to party. It might come off as that. Some people might go under that guise even. And there probably is a good amount of partying that goes on. And from the accounts that we have, it is a lot of drinking and shows and plays.
Like dining halls filled with tables and people.
And also a bunch of drag.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a bunch of drag because they don't allow women there. A lot of the politicians dress up in drag.
They're just showing up in drag.
But I do think it is a very much at its core a ceremony to worship this deity Moloch. That's what there's too much there. And with the correlation with Epstein, and this is why I want the cross-reference. And we'll get into this in 20 minutes here in the next hour. Child sex trafficking, especially in America, running rampant.
It's a huge problem.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of missing kids each year.
Yeah, huge problem.
And we know that child sex trafficking is going on, and we know that it's politicians and celebrities and musicians and actors and all these people in high places that are seemingly at the head of these ranks. We have Epstein and Maxwell and Diddy now, and those are far from scratching the surface of who all is involved in this. I think a lot of those names are going to be on the same list between Epstein's Island and Diddy and Bohemian Grove.
They'll all be cross-referenced.
I don't think these sacrifices, and even if they are now, if they are now just, man-made little stick idols or whatever you want to call them, I don't think they always were, even if they aren't now. I think there's probably child sacrifice going on here. And I think that's part of the reason why it is so secretive. If this was just, rich people in the woods wanting to have a party, I think it'd be a lot easier to infiltrate. Yes, there'd be security, but I don't think they would care nearly as much as if something malicious was going on inside.
That gives me the willies.
That's my thought process on this.
I mean, I believe it, but it gives me the willies.
And we've talked about years ago Pizzagate and things like that, and adrenochrome and all that. And there's a lot of this and that about it, and a lot of it is off the wall stuff of like, people meeting in the downstairs of a Domino's and meeting kids, right? I don't think it's that, but I think that could have some links to this.
Right.
Especially when you have names like the Bushes and the Clintons and major politicians.
Yeah.
Well, Bill. But
his wife's not allowed.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds believable. And yeah, from like the Skull and Bones to the Bohemian Club to Grove to being at the Grove and like the whole Alex Jones thing. Like, yeah, I could, but it's like, what? I don't know. What are they getting out of it?
Yeah, what are they
getting out of it?
The enjoyment of doing it. I don't know. Why do people join a cult?
I guess.
Why do people, practice devil worship and witchcraft and all these other things? I think, in their minds, they're appeasing some higher power.
Right.
I really do. I think that's what the whole sacrifice to Moloch is. I'm trying to... Go ahead.
And so the connection between Moloch and the owl is...
So Moloch is, in the biblical sense, often described as like half man, half... Sometimes it's a goat, sometimes it's an owl, sometimes it's, it's different animals. Sometimes it's a horse. But it's typically like a giant humanoid animal thing, which is what it's a 40-foot, like, weird-shaped, owl-headed creature.
Okay, so it's not specific, like, it's kind of an owl, kind of something else.
Right. It's definitely... not just an owl. Let's say that.
Spooky.
Yeah. Jules, your thoughts?
I have no idea what they're doing out there. I just have like a weird vibe of just a bunch of gross men.
Cause like, yeah, I want to play like devil's advocate and say they're just being creative out there, but they're definitely not.
They're not.
Right.
Like my mind is just going to the worst ever possible cases.
Yeah.
Because
it's probably some spooky shit.
They have presidents. They have top military officials. They have business officials. Like, there's nothing that can be done there that.
Well, and it's all money.
Yeah.
It's all it's these people that have money and can throw money at
any problem,
problem and protection and keep a place like Bohemian Grove from not, keep the president or whatever from being scrubbed from the internet type thing.
Right.
Like, it feels like it's its own like property away from the United States, not able to be like infiltrated at all.
I know it's a lot lighter. Well, it's Epstein's Island. There you go.
Basically.
I was gonna say it's like a Disney sovereign land scenario, but it's an Epstein Island scenario in the literal sense. If we aren't allowed to know what's going on there, and everyone who isn't talking, and why aren't they talking? If this was just a party in the woods, you'd think there'd be more conversation about it.
Yeah,
even if it's not like, hey, I met so and so there, and we talked about this deal, which I'm sure is a lot of what goes on is backdoor business deals or military deals or political deals.
But
you'd hear like, hey, I hung out with so and so at this party.
That's so. Yeah, why are they so secretive? Why do they need to be so secretive?
Yeah, what is happening?
More shit would slip through the if it was quote unquote secretive, but all they were doing was like creative, not hurtful shit.
Yeah,
some things would probably end up slipping through the cracks. You would hear like you're saying. You would hear stories, and people would say on some interview or something like that, "Oh yeah, me and this person did this deal, or this collaboration happened."
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
Like, you would hear about that sort of thing more.
When the thing is, the fact that it's so secretive, they don't deny any of the stuff that's out there either. No one's ever like denied what's going on in the Alex Jones video or called it fake or tried to justify it.
They don't have a PR team.
Yeah, they really don't.
Probably if somebody was to talk about it, that would just confirm that they're a part of it.
Real quick, I want to preface this because I brought it up earlier. The Skull and Bones get their name from stealing the skulls of Apache leader Geronimo, Martin Van Buren, and Pancho Villa. They stole all their bones.
Wow.
Pretty famous guys. They just took their fucking remains. So that's how they get their names.
Yeah, how did they know?
I guess they just know. I mean, it is the top 1% of the 1% that get in there, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. It's also an all-male fraternity.
Well,
yeah, what's up with the all-male? What's up with the all-male stuff?
Boys club.
Kind of sounds a little gay.
Get some girls. Let's get some girls in the mix, right?
Yeah.
They are. I did read they're allowed when it's not this 2-week encampment, like during the off season. Members are allowed to bring their families or whoever, but women and children are not allowed to be there after nightfall.
Really?
Yeah, and anybody that you bring in there has to do a 2-week like
screening.
That's what? Like, that's so weird. That's so.
When it comes to the town itself, right?
What is the name of the town?
It's
Bohemia?
not Bohemian Grove might be the full name of the town.
So.
Okay.
But the town itself, it's a very small town. And there's a story from a lady who runs a dry cleaning organization in the town dry cleaning, right? And she tells the story of 2009, somewhere around there. It was in the 2-week period of Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Club was there.
Right.
And apparently the story is that George W. Bush, didn't bring spare clothes or like underwear or something like that. So went to the dry cleaner, was taken to the dry cleaner to have his clothes washed and didn't have money on him. And as collateral left his Bohemian card with the dry cleaner.
Whoa.
To then come back and say that he was going to come pay for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And to my knowledge, that's how we know about the whole membership card thing. Because that's the only story I found about the card specifically.
And that story was just from
the lady, the dry cleaner, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start a dry cleaning business in Bohemian Grove.
I guess so. I'd love to go there. People get arrested on site when they go there.
Imagine being like born in that town. Imagine being a kid and you're born in that town and you just live there and your mom and dad are like, all right, well, we work in the city and you have to work in the city and we can't tell anybody you can only stay in the city. It's a really, really nice city, but
I know we got to go to break soon, but I think it's very interesting, not so much that the town doesn't talk about it, because I'm sure they're pretty well paid, even if it's not a payoff. They get good money from these people coming through their town.
Right.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a whistleblower who left the town and was like, by the way, this is what's going on. 216-859-8699. I want to know what you guys think and who else is involved in these Hollywood, backwood, top 1% secret organizations, because I'm sure there's a lot of names that we didn't mention that are in clubs and groups and organizations and sex trafficking rings and everything. And I know there's a lot of names that if we did mention, we'd get taken down again. So 216-859-8699. Once again, that's 216-859-8699 is the Rebel hotline. It works 24/7, 365 for all of our shows. Even if you're listening in podcast form on a Wednesday at 10 a.m., the phone number still works. 216-859-8699 works for our show, works for Shani's Off Air, works for The Pigeonhole, works for Behind Enemy Lines, the Cleveland sports show based out of Pittsburgh that's going to be airing at 10 a.m. on WSRR Radio on weekdays. You can even use it to talk about True Vault Escapades, the Fallout-based radio drama that airs at 10 p.m. on weekdays here on WSRR Radio, or any of our great programming or artists that you listen to on WSRR Radio. You can also get closer with us, the hosts, the show hosts, the artists, and everybody in the community by joining. Get a little closer. Not Diddy close.
Not that close.
No,
whoa, Diddy.
But just a
Stay
little,
back.
Just a little closer. at WSRradio.com. You can get the link to the Discord server and join us in any of the chat channels. Continue this discussion in the conspiracy section, because even though conspiracy season is over, none of this stops we've been going to.
We're going to retouch on Diddy because his trial starts in May of next year.
Yeah.
So
We'll be talking about
coming back.
So make sure you stay tuned to WSRR Radio and WSRRradio.com. Follow all of our social media links. Thanks again to Synergy Music Studio out of Chicago, GenericClothes.com, and Hellbender Vinyl out of Pittsburgh, PA, our awesome sponsors that keep us on the air as well as the independent music scene alive and well. Until next time, I've been Radio's Rebel DJ Styles. To my right, Shaney.
For the last time of the year. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Okay, do it again. Reintroduce it.
Shaney. On the board is Jules.
Yeah. Got some ghosts in this biatch.
Peace.